Productivity is a superpower. Written and published by Fearless Audiobook. Introduction. Have you ever ended a day feeling exhausted, yet strangely unaccomplished? You were busy from morning until night. You answered messages, attended meetings, checked notifications, and completed dozens of small tasks. Yet when the day was over, the goals that truly mattered remained untouched. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. The truth is that productivity isn't about doing more things. It's about doing the right things. In a world filled with endless distractions, constant interruptions, and information overload, the ability to focus and make meaningful progress has become a rare and valuable skill. In fact, it may be the closest thing to a real-life superpower. Imagine what your life would look like if you could consistently finish important work, stay focused without getting distracted, and make steady progress toward your biggest goals. Imagine having more control over your time, more confidence in your abilities, and less stress about everything left undone. This audiobook is your guide to making that transformation. You'll discover how highly productive people think, how they manage their time and energy, how they overcome procrastination, and how they build habits that lead to extraordinary results. Productivity is not a talent that a lucky few are born with. It is a skill that anyone can learn, practice, and master. And once you do, it can change every area of your life. So, if you're ready to stop being busy and start being effective, let's begin. Your productivity superpower is waiting to be unlocked. Chapter 1. The Productivity Mindset. Why productivity is your greatest advantage. Picture two people at the end of a long day. Both are tired. Both have spent hours working. Both feel like they've been busy from morning until evening. Yet one of them goes to bed with a sense of accomplishment, knowing they moved closer to their goals. The other lies awake, wondering where the day went and why so little seems to have changed. The difference is not intelligence. It is not talent. It is not luck. The difference is productivity. Most people misunderstand what productivity really means. They imagine a life packed with activity, overflowing calendars, endless to-do lists, and constant movement. They believe productivity means squeezing more tasks into every hour. But true productivity has very little to do with how much you do. It has everything to do with what you accomplish. Being productive is not about being busy. In fact, busyness is often productivity's greatest enemy. Think about how many times you've spent an entire day responding to emails, checking messages, attending meetings, scrolling through updates, and handling small requests from other people. By evening, you've worked hard, yet the important project you promised yourself you would start remains untouched. The goal that could improve your future has been pushed aside once again. Activity creates the illusion of progress. Achievement creates actual progress. This is one of the most important mindset shifts you can ever make. The world rewards results, not motion. Running on a treadmill requires tremendous effort, but you never leave the same spot. Many people live their entire lives that way, constantly moving but rarely advancing. Productive people understand something that others often miss. They know that every hour carries a hidden choice. You can spend that hour reacting to life, or you can spend it creating the life you want. This way of thinking changes everything. When productive people wake up in the morning, they do not simply ask, "What do I need to do today?" Instead, they ask, "What matters most today?" Their focus is not on completing the maximum number of tasks. Their focus is on completing the tasks that produce the greatest impact. This difference may seem small, but over months and years, it creates completely different lives. One person spends their days putting out fires, reacting to circumstances, and dealing with whatever appears in front of them. Another person intentionally dedicates time to learning new skills, building meaningful projects, improving relationships, and pursuing long-term goals. Both are busy. Only one is moving toward a better future. The most productive people in the world are not necessarily the ones who work the longest hours. Many of them have simply mastered the art of deciding what deserves their attention and what does not. Attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Unlike money, once time is spent, it can never be earned back. Every minute that passes disappears forever. That truth may sound uncomfortable, but it is also empowering. It reminds us that our lives are built from the choices we make with our time each day. The hidden cost of wasted time is far greater than most people realize. Wasted time is not just lost hours, it is lost opportunities. It is the book never written, the business never started, the skill never learned, the dream never pursued. Days become weeks, weeks become years. Eventually, many people find themselves wondering why their lives look exactly the same as they did years ago. The tragedy is that major regrets rarely come from dramatic mistakes. More often, they come from small daily decisions repeated over long periods. 10 minutes wasted here, an hour lost there, a postponed goal, a delayed dream. Individually, these moments seem insignificant. Together, they shape an entire future. The good news is that productivity is not a gift reserved for a select few. It is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned. The moment you stop measuring your days by how busy you were and start measuring them by the value you created, your perspective begins to change. You become more intentional, more focused, more aware of where your time goes and why it matters. Productivity is your greatest advantage because it turns potential into reality. Many people have dreams, many people have talent, many people have good intentions, but those who consistently take meaningful action are the ones who transform possibilities into achievements. And that journey begins with a simple realization: being busy is not enough. What matters is making your time count. Chapter 2. Defining what matters most. The power of clear goals. Imagine boarding an airplane and asking the pilot where you're going, only to hear the response, "I'm not really sure, we'll just fly and see where we end up." You would never step onto that flight. Yet this is exactly how many people live their lives. They work hard, they stay busy, they wake up early, complete tasks and carry responsibilities. But beneath all that activity lies a troubling question. Where is all this effort leading? Without clear goals, life becomes a series of reactions rather than intentional actions. Days turn into weeks, weeks become years, and eventually people find themselves wondering why they feel stuck despite working so hard. The problem is rarely a lack of effort. More often, it is a lack of direction. Productivity becomes powerful only when it is connected to a meaningful destination. A clear goal does something extraordinary to the human mind. It gives your actions purpose. It transforms ordinary tasks into meaningful steps. It creates a reason to keep moving when motivation fades and obstacles appear. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most energized. Chances are those moments were connected to a vision of something better. Maybe it was earning a degree, building a business, improving your health, supporting your family, or pursuing a dream that mattered deeply to you. Human beings are not motivated by activity alone. We are motivated by progress towards something meaningful. That is why creating a compelling vision for your future is so important. A vision is bigger than a goal. A goal answers the question, what do I want to achieve? A vision answers the question, who do I want to become? The distinction matters. Many people set goals they think they should pursue: more money, a better job, a larger house, greater recognition. Yet even when they achieve those goals, they often feel empty because the goals were never connected to their deepest values. True productivity begins when your goals align with what genuinely matters to you. Take a moment to imagine yourself 5 years from now. Not just what you own or what you've accomplished, but how you live. What kind of person have you become? How do you spend your days? What relationships surround you? What work gives you meaning? What impact do you make on the people around you? These questions reveal something powerful. They help you identify priorities that reflect your values instead of society's expectations. When your goals align with your values, discipline becomes easier, effort feels more meaningful. Challenges become easier to endure because you understand why the struggle matters. One of the biggest mistakes people make is treating every opportunity as equally important. The modern world constantly presents new possibilities, new careers, new side businesses, new skills, new trends, new distractions disguised as opportunities. At first glance, this seems exciting, but there is a hidden danger. Every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. Your attention is limited, your energy is limited, your time is limited. Trying to pursue everything often results in accomplishing very little. This is where productive people think differently. They understand that success is not simply about addition. It is often about elimination. They identify the few priorities that matter most and give those priorities their full commitment. A powerful example of this mindset can be seen in the way many visionary leaders approach massive ambitions. Consider how entrepreneurs with enormous long-term goals avoid becoming overwhelmed. Instead of focusing on the entire mountain, they break it down into smaller missions. When Elon Musk talks about ambitious objectives like advancing electric vehicles or expanding space exploration, he doesn't spend every day thinking about the final outcome alone. He focuses on the next critical step, the next engineering challenge, the next milestone, the next problem that must be solved. The larger vision provides direction, but the smaller missions provide momentum. This principle applies to every area of life. A person who wants to write a book does not write a book today. They write a page. A person who wants to get healthy does not transform their body overnight. They complete today's workout. A person who wants financial freedom does not build wealth in a week. They make one smart financial decision at a time. Big dreams become achievable when they are converted into manageable actions. This is where many people get stuck. They fall in love with the dream, but avoid defining the steps. The dream remains inspiring but distant. Productive people close that gap. They ask themselves a simple question: what is the next action I can take? Not next month, not next year, today. Clarity creates action. Action creates progress. Progress creates confidence. And confidence fuels even greater action. As you move forward in your productivity journey, remember that your life is shaped not only by how hard you work, but by what you choose to work toward. A clear goal acts like a compass during uncertainty. It keeps you moving forward when distractions compete for your attention. It helps you distinguish between what is urgent and what is truly important. Because productivity is not about doing more things. It is about making sure the things you do are leading you toward the future you truly want. And that future begins to take shape the moment you decide what matters most. Chapter 3. Mastering your time. Take control of every hour. There is a question that quietly follows every human being throughout life. Where did the time go? It appears in different forms. Sometimes it arrives at the end of a day when you realize the important task never got started. Sometimes it appears at the end of a year when you notice that the goals you promised yourself are still sitting untouched. And sometimes it arrives much later, when people look back on decades and wonder how life moved so quickly. Time has a strange quality. It feels abundant when we think about the future, yet scarce when we look at the past. Unlike money, time cannot be earned back. Unlike possessions, it cannot be replaced. Every person on earth, regardless of wealth, status, intelligence or background, receives the same 24 hours each day. The difference is not in how much time people have. The difference is in how they use it. This truth lies at the heart of productivity. Many people believe they need more time. In reality, what they often need is more intention. Without intention, hours disappear unnoticed. A quick check of social media becomes 30 minutes. A short break becomes an hour. Small interruptions accumulate until an entire day feels fragmented. By evening, exhaustion sets in, but meaningful progress remains out of reach. The problem is rarely laziness. Most people are trying hard. The problem is that they are allowing their time to be directed by circumstances instead of decisions. Highly productive people approach time differently. They understand that if they do not consciously decide how their day will unfold, someone else will decide for them. Emails, notifications, requests, meetings, and distractions will happily consume every available hour if given the chance. That is why productive people begin with a plan. Planning is not about controlling every minute of life. It is about giving your attention a destination before the day begins. When you wake up knowing exactly what deserves your focus, you eliminate countless decisions that would otherwise drain your energy. Instead of constantly asking yourself what to do next, you already know. This creates a powerful sense of momentum. Imagine starting each morning with clarity rather than confusion. Instead of reacting to whatever appears first, you begin with purpose. The most important work gets your best energy rather than whatever happens to be left over. This simple shift changes everything. One of the most effective tools for doing this is time blocking. Time blocking is the practice of assigning specific periods of your day to specific activities. Rather than keeping a long list of tasks and hoping they get done, you reserve actual space on your calendar for what matters. Think of your calendar as a reflection of your priorities. If something is truly important, it deserves a place on your schedule. Many high achievers have embraced this philosophy. People like Bill Gates have long been known for protecting large blocks of uninterrupted time for deep thinking, learning, and focused work. They understand that meaningful progress often requires concentration, and concentration requires protection. They do not leave important work to chance. Instead, they create boundaries around their most valuable hours. This is especially important because distractions have become one of the greatest threats to productivity. We live in a world designed to capture our attention. Every notification, message, advertisement, and update competes for a piece of our focus. Most distractions seem harmless in isolation. A quick glance at your phone, a brief conversation, a momentary interruption, but productivity is rarely destroyed by one major event. It is usually destroyed by hundreds of tiny interruptions. Every distraction comes with a hidden cost. When your attention is pulled away from meaningful work, it takes time to fully return. Your concentration weakens, your momentum slows. What should have taken 30 minutes stretches into 2 hours. This is why protecting your focus is really about protecting your time. The most productive people become ruthless about identifying time leaks. They pay attention to activities that consume hours without producing value. They ask difficult questions. Is this helping me move forward? Does this deserve my attention? Is there a better use of this hour? These questions create awareness, and awareness creates control. The goal is not perfection. No one manages every minute flawlessly. Unexpected events happen. Plans change. Life is unpredictable. But productivity is not about controlling everything. It is about controlling what you can. Every day presents dozens of opportunities to invest your time wisely. Some investments produce growth, learning, achievement, and fulfillment. Others simply disappear without leaving anything meaningful behind. The choice is yours. Remember, your life is not built in years. It is built in days, and your days are built in hours. Mastering your time is not merely about getting more done. It is about making sure your limited hours are spent creating a life you will be proud to look back on. Because when you learn to take control of your hours, you begin to take control of your future. And there is no greater productivity skill than that. Chapter 4. The Focus Formula. Winning the Battle for Attention. Close your eyes for a moment and think about the last time you were completely absorbed in something important. Not distracted, not multitasking, not checking your phone every few minutes, just fully engaged, fully present, and completely focused on one task. For many people, that moment feels increasingly rare. We live in a world where attention is constantly under attack. Every day, thousands of things compete for our focus. Notifications buzz, emails arrive, social media feeds refresh endlessly, news headlines demand our attention. Even when we sit down to do meaningful work, distractions seem to find their way into the room. The greatest challenge of modern productivity is no longer finding information. It is protecting attention. Attention is one of the most powerful resources you possess, because where your attention goes, your life follows. The quality of your work, your relationships, your learning, and your achievements are all influenced by your ability to focus on what truly matters. This is why focus has become a competitive advantage. In a distracted world, the person who can concentrate deeply has an extraordinary edge. While others are constantly switching between tasks, responding to interruptions, and scattering their mental energy, focused individuals are making real progress. The truth is that every significant accomplishment requires sustained attention. Books are not written in moments of distraction. Businesses are not built through endless multitasking. Skills are not mastered while constantly checking notifications. Great work demands focus. Yet many people have unknowingly trained themselves to lose focus. Every time we interrupt ourselves to check a message, scroll through social media, or jump between tasks, we teach our brains to seek novelty rather than concentration. Over time, this habit weakens our ability to stay present. The good news is that focus is not something you either have or don't have. It is a skill. And like any skill, it can be strengthened through practice. Think of your mind as a muscle. If you constantly allow distractions to pull your attention in different directions, that muscle becomes weaker. But when you intentionally practice concentrating on one task at a time, your ability to focus grows stronger. One of the most effective ways to build this skill is through deep work. Deep work occurs when you dedicate uninterrupted time to a single meaningful task. During these periods, your attention is fully invested. There are no notifications, no multitasking, and no unnecessary interruptions. It is in these moments that your best thinking emerges. At first, deep work may feel uncomfortable. Many people have become so accustomed to constant stimulation that silence and concentration feel unfamiliar. The mind searches for distractions. It craves entertainment. It looks for an excuse to escape difficult work. But if you remain committed, something remarkable happens. Your concentration deepens, ideas become clearer, progress accelerates. Tasks that once seemed overwhelming become manageable. You begin producing work that reflects your true potential rather than your divided attention. Of course, maintaining focus is not just about discipline, it is also about environment. Your surroundings influence your behavior more than you realize. A cluttered workspace can create mental clutter. A phone sitting next to you silently invites distraction. Open tabs on a computer constantly tempt your attention away from the task at hand. Productive people understand this principle. Instead of relying solely on willpower, they design environments that make focus easier. They remove distractions before they become problems. They create spaces that support concentration rather than compete with it. This approach reduces the number of decisions your brain must make. Instead of fighting distractions all day, you simply make them less accessible. Another important truth about focus is that saying yes to one thing often means saying no to many others. Every moment spent focusing on a meaningful goal requires temporarily ignoring less important demands. This can feel uncomfortable because we naturally want to respond to everything. We want to stay connected, informed, and available. But focus requires selectivity. It requires the courage to decide what deserves your attention and what does not. Many people believe productivity is about doing more things. In reality, productivity often comes from doing fewer things with greater concentration. When your attention is divided among 10 priorities, progress becomes slow. When your attention is directed toward one meaningful objective, momentum builds quickly. At the end of your life, your greatest achievements will not come from the thousands of distractions that captured your attention. They will come from the moments when you chose to focus on what truly mattered. Focus is more than a productivity strategy. It is a way of living intentionally. It is the decision to give your best energy to the people, goals, and opportunities that deserve it most. And in a world that constantly demands your attention, That decision may be one of the most powerful choices you ever make. Chapter 5. Beat procrastination. Start before you feel ready. Have you ever noticed how often we tell ourselves, "I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll start exercising. Tomorrow, I'll work on my goals. Tomorrow, I'll begin writing that book, launching that business, learning that skill, or making that important change." Yet somehow, tomorrow has a way of turning into next week, next month, or even next year. Procrastination is one of the most frustrating experiences in human life because it creates a painful gap between what we know we should do and what we actually do. We understand the importance of the task. We know it would improve our future. We genuinely want the results, yet we delay taking action. The problem is not a lack of knowledge. Most people already know what they need to do. The problem is that action often feels uncomfortable. Many assume procrastination is simply laziness, but that belief couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, some of the most ambitious and capable people struggle with procrastination. The issue is rarely unwillingness to succeed. More often, it is fear disguised as delay. Sometimes we procrastinate because we fear failure. We worry that our efforts won't be good enough. We imagine embarrassing mistakes, disappointing outcomes, or the possibility that we may not achieve the results we hope for. Other times we procrastinate because we fear success. Success brings responsibility, visibility, and change. Deep down, part of us may resist stepping into unfamiliar territory. And then there is perfectionism, the silent productivity killer. Perfectionism convinces us that everything must be flawless before we begin. We tell ourselves we need more preparation, more knowledge, more confidence, or better circumstances. We wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment never arrives. Life is messy. Circumstances are rarely ideal. Confidence rarely appears before action. More often, confidence is the result of action. This is one of the most important truths you can learn. Action creates clarity. Many people believe they need clarity before they act. In reality, they gain clarity because they act. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. No amount of reading, planning, or thinking could fully prepare you. At some point, you had to get on the bike and start moving. The learning happened through experience. The same principle applies to nearly every meaningful goal in life. You do not become a confident writer before you write. You become a confident writer by writing. You do not become a confident speaker before you speak. You become a confident speaker by speaking. You do not become productive by waiting for motivation. You become productive by taking action despite the absence of motivation. This is where many successful people separate themselves from the crowd. They understand that progress rarely begins with a giant leap. More often, it begins with a tiny step, a single page, a single workout, a single phone call, a single hour of focused effort. These small actions may seem insignificant, but they contain extraordinary power because they create momentum. Momentum changes everything. Starting is often the hardest part of any task. Before we begin, our minds exaggerate the difficulty. The project feels overwhelming. The challenge appears larger than it really is. We imagine hours of effort and endless obstacles. But once we start, resistance begins to fade. The task becomes more familiar. Progress becomes visible. Confidence starts to grow. Suddenly what seemed impossible feels manageable. This is why productive people focus less on completing tasks and more on starting them. They know that motion creates motivation. One powerful idea often discussed by habit experts like James Clear is the importance of identity. Instead of asking, "How can I get motivated?" they ask, "What would a productive person do?" This subtle shift changes behavior. Every time you take action, even a small action, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. You reinforce an identity. You prove to yourself that you are someone who follows through. Over time, these votes accumulate. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to become consistent. There will be days when you feel inspired and energized. There will also be days when you feel tired, distracted, discouraged, or unmotivated. Your future will not be determined by your best days. It will be determined by what you do on the difficult days. Discipline is not the absence of resistance. It is the decision to move forward despite resistance. The people we admire most are not individuals who never felt fear or doubt. They are individuals who acted anyway. They understood that waiting for readiness is a trap. They recognized that growth happens through action, not preparation alone. Every meaningful achievement begins the same way. Someone decides to start, not because they feel fully prepared, not because they have all the answers, not because the timing is perfect, but because they understand that progress belongs to those who move. So if there is a goal you've been postponing, a dream you've been delaying, or a project you've been avoiding, remember this simple truth. You do not need to see the entire path. You only need enough courage to take the next step. Because action creates momentum, momentum creates confidence, and confidence creates transformation. And everything changes the moment you stop waiting and start moving. Chapter 6. Build habits that work for you. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that success no longer depended on motivation. Imagine not having to negotiate with yourself every morning about whether you should exercise, work on your goals, read a book, or complete important tasks. Imagine simply doing those things naturally, almost automatically, without exhausting your willpower every single day. That is the power of habits. Most people spend their lives chasing motivation. They wait for the perfect mood, the perfect energy level, or the perfect moment to begin. They believe productive people possess some special form of discipline that allows them to work harder than everyone else. But the truth is much simpler. The most productive people are not constantly motivated. They simply have better habits. A habit is a behavior that becomes automatic through repetition. It is something you do so consistently that it eventually requires very little mental effort. Just as brushing your teeth no longer requires a debate or decision, productive habits can become part of your daily identity. This is why habits are far more powerful than motivation. Motivation is temporary. It rises and falls like the weather. Some days you feel energized and inspired. Other days you feel tired, distracted, discouraged, or overwhelmed. If your progress depends entirely on motivation, your results will always be inconsistent. Habits create consistency when motivation disappears. Think about a pilot flying through clouds. There are moments when visibility is poor and the destination cannot be seen clearly. Yet the pilot continues moving forward because the flight plan already exists. Habits work in a similar way. They guide your actions even when enthusiasm fades. The problem is that many people underestimate the impact of small daily actions. They assume meaningful change requires dramatic effort. They want immediate transformation, instant results, and overnight success. Life rarely works that way. The reality is that your future is being shaped by the small choices you make every day. Every habit is like a vote for the person you are becoming. One workout may not transform your body. One page of reading may not make you an expert. One productive day may not change your career. But repeated consistently over months and years, these small actions become extraordinary. Success is often invisible in the beginning. A person learning a new language may study for weeks without noticing significant improvement. A writer may spend months creating content without seeing recognition. An entrepreneur may work tirelessly before experiencing meaningful results. Many people quit during this stage because they cannot yet see the progress they are making. What they fail to understand is that habits are quietly working beneath the surface. Just as a seed develops roots long before it breaks through the soil, positive habits create invisible growth before visible results appear. The breakthrough often arrives much later than expected, making it seem sudden to others. In reality, it is the result of countless small actions accumulated over time. This is why patience is one of the most important companions of productivity. The goal is not to achieve perfection. The goal is to show up consistently. One of the most effective ways to build productive habits is to make them simple enough that you cannot easily avoid them. Many people fail because they make their goals too large at the beginning. They decide to exercise 2 hours every day, read 50 pages nightly, wake up at 5 in the morning, and completely transform their lives overnight. Such plans often collapse under their own weight. Lasting habits usually begin with small actions: a 10-minute walk, a single page of reading, 5 minutes of planning, one focused work session. Small habits feel manageable, and manageable habits are easier to repeat. Repetition matters more than intensity. The habit you perform consistently will always outperform the habit you perform occasionally with great enthusiasm. Another powerful strategy is habit stacking. This involves attaching a new habit to an existing one. Since your current routines already occur automatically, they provide a natural trigger for new behaviors. For example, after making your morning coffee, you might spend 5 minutes reviewing your goals. After brushing your teeth, you might read a few pages of a book. After finishing lunch, you might take a short walk. These small connections make habits easier to remember and easier to maintain. Just as productive habits shape your future, unproductive habits shape it as well. Many people focus on building good habits while ignoring the bad ones that continue draining their time and energy. Endless scrolling, constant distractions, procrastination, and mindless consumption often become automatic behaviors without us realizing it. The danger of bad habits is that their consequences are rarely immediate. A few wasted minutes seem harmless. One day of procrastination feels insignificant. Yet repeated daily, these behaviors quietly steal months and years from our lives. The key is awareness. When you begin paying attention to your routines, you gain the power to change them. You start noticing which habits move you closer to your goals and which habits pull you away from them. Over time, these choices become part of your identity. You are not merely someone who exercises. You become a healthy person. You are not merely someone who writes. You become a writer. You are not merely someone who manages time well. You become a productive person. This transformation is powerful because identity creates permanence. Actions become easier when they align with how you see yourself. Ultimately, productivity is not built through occasional bursts of effort. It is built through daily systems that support the life you want to create. The habits you choose today may seem small, but they are shaping the person you will become tomorrow. Every repeated action is writing a chapter of your future. And the most remarkable part is this: you do not need to change your entire life overnight. You only need to improve one habit at a time. Because when productive habits become part of who you are, success stops feeling like a struggle and starts becoming your natural direction. Chapter 7: Energy Management, Fueling High Performance. Consider this for a moment. Have you ever sat at your desk with plenty of time available, but absolutely no energy to do meaningful work? The hours were there, the opportunity was there, the task was waiting, yet your mind felt exhausted, your motivation felt distant, and even the simplest responsibilities seemed overwhelming. Most people respond to this situation by assuming they need better time management, but often the real problem is not a shortage of time, it is a shortage of energy. For decades, productivity has been associated with calendars, schedules, planners, and to-do lists. While these tools are valuable, they tell only part of the story. Managing your time effectively matters, but your ability to use that time depends largely on the energy you bring to it. An hour spent working with focus, enthusiasm, and mental clarity can accomplish more than 5 hours spent exhausted, distracted, and mentally drained. This is why true productivity is not simply about managing your clock. It is about managing yourself. Many people unknowingly treat themselves like machines. They push harder when they feel tired. They sacrifice sleep to get more done. They ignore signs of burnout. They convince themselves that success requires constant hustle and endless sacrifice. For a while, this approach may seem effective. Deadlines get met. Projects move forward, goals appear within reach, but eventually the bill comes due, mental fatigue accumulates, physical health declines, creativity fades, Motivation disappears. Tasks that once felt manageable begin to feel overwhelming. What looked like dedication slowly turns into exhaustion. The human mind and body were never designed to operate at maximum intensity every hour of every day. Productive people understand this truth. Instead of treating energy as an unlimited resource, they treat it as something valuable that must be protected, renewed, and invested wisely. One of the most important foundations of energy management is sleep. Unfortunately, sleep is often viewed as an obstacle to achievement rather than a contributor to it. Many people proudly talk about how little sleep they get, as if exhaustion were a badge of honor. Yet some of the world's highest performers understand the opposite. Elite athletes, successful entrepreneurs, and high-level executives recognize that sleep directly affects focus, decision-making, memory, creativity, and emotional control. Without adequate rest, even the best productivity systems begin to break down. Think about your own life. How much more difficult does everything become after a poor night's sleep? Small problems feel larger. Simple tasks require greater effort. Patience becomes harder to maintain. Concentration weakens. Sleep is not wasted time. It is preparation for peak performance. The same principle applies to physical health. Many people separate productivity from exercise, nutrition, and movement, as though these areas have little connection. In reality, they are deeply connected. Your body fuels your mind. When you move regularly, eat nourishing foods, and take care of your physical well-being, you create the conditions for sustained mental performance. Your focus improves. Your mood stabilizes. Your energy becomes more consistent. You do not need to become a professional athlete to experience these benefits. Small improvements often create meaningful results. A daily walk, better hydration, consistent sleep habits, simple choices repeated over time can dramatically improve your ability to perform. But physical energy is only part of the equation. There is another form of energy that many people overlook: emotional energy. Emotional exhaustion can be just as damaging as physical exhaustion. Constant stress, unresolved worries, toxic relationships, negative self-talk, and endless mental clutter drain your capacity to focus and perform. You may have experienced days when you were physically rested but emotionally depleted. Perhaps a difficult conversation, a personal setback, or persistent anxiety occupied your thoughts. Even though your body was present, your mind felt scattered. This is why managing your emotions is an essential productivity skill. Productive people are not free from stress or challenges. They simply recognize the importance of processing their emotions instead of carrying them endlessly. They create space for reflection. They seek support when needed. They practice gratitude. They learn how to recover from setbacks without allowing those setbacks to consume their energy. Recovery is not weakness. Recovery is strategy. One of the most powerful lessons in energy management is understanding your natural rhythms. Every person experiences periods of higher and lower energy throughout the day. Some people think most clearly in the early morning. Others perform best in the afternoon or evening. Instead of fighting these patterns, productive individuals learn to work with them. They schedule their most important tasks during periods of peak energy. They reserve routine activities for times when their concentration naturally declines. They align their work with their biology rather than constantly battling against it. Many highly successful people are known for protecting these peak performance hours. Individuals like Tim Cook and countless elite performers structure their routines around habits that help preserve their physical and mental energy. They understand that success is not created solely through effort. It is created through sustained effort over long periods of time. And sustained effort requires energy. Ultimately, productivity is not about squeezing more work into your life. It is about creating a life that allows you to perform at your best consistently. You can have the perfect goals, the best plans, and the strongest intentions, but without energy, those plans remain unrealized. Energy is the fuel behind every achievement. It powers your focus, your discipline, your creativity, and your resilience. So instead of asking only, how can I manage my time better? Begin asking a more important question. How can I manage my energy better? Because when your energy is strong, your productivity naturally follows. You think more clearly, you act more decisively, you recover more quickly, you accomplish more meaningful work, and perhaps most importantly, you build success in a way that is sustainable, not just for a week or a month, but for a lifetime. Chapter 8. Do less, achieve more. The art of prioritization. Imagine standing in front of 100 doors. Behind each door lies an opportunity, a new project, a new skill, a new responsibility, a new commitment, a new possibility that promises growth, success, or fulfillment. At first, this seems exciting. More options should mean more opportunities, right? But there is a problem. You only have enough time, energy, and attention to walk through a few of those doors. This is one of the greatest challenges of modern life. We are surrounded by opportunities, yet overwhelmed by choices. Every day presents countless demands on our attention. Emails need responses, tasks need completion, people need our time. New ideas constantly compete for our focus. As a result, many people spend their lives trying to do everything, and in the process, they accomplish far less than they could. Productivity is often misunderstood as the ability to handle more. In reality, one of the most important productivity skills is learning what not to do. The highest performers in any field understand a powerful truth. Success is not simply about effort. It is about directed effort. The person who chases 10 priorities simultaneously often makes slower progress than the person who focuses intensely on one or two meaningful goals. This is where prioritization becomes essential. Prioritization is the ability to distinguish between what is important and what merely appears urgent. It is the ability to identify the activities that create the greatest results and give them your best attention. Without this skill, life becomes reactive. You spend your days responding to whatever demands your attention first. Every request feels urgent. Every opportunity seems important. Every task competes equally for your time. The result is exhaustion without meaningful progress. One of the most valuable principles in productivity is known as the 80-20th principle, often called the Pareto principle. The idea is simple but powerful. In many areas of life, roughly 80% of results come from 20% of efforts. This means that a small number of actions often create the majority of outcomes. A small percentage of customers may generate most of a company's revenue. A small number of habits may create the majority of personal growth. A handful of daily activities may contribute more to your success than everything else combined. The challenge is identifying which activities belong in that critical 20%. Most people fill their days with low-impact tasks because they are easy, familiar, and immediately rewarding. They answer emails, organize files, attend unnecessary meetings, and complete minor responsibilities. These tasks create the feeling of productivity. But feeling productive and being productive are not always the same thing. Real productivity comes from focusing on work that creates meaningful results. This requires honesty. It requires asking yourself difficult questions. What activities genuinely move me toward my goals? What tasks create the greatest value? What am I doing simply because it feels busy? These questions can reveal surprising truths. Sometimes the activity consuming most of your time contributes very little to your long-term success. Meanwhile, the activity you've been avoiding may be the one capable of creating significant change. Prioritization often requires courage because important work is not always comfortable work. The tasks that create the greatest impact frequently involve uncertainty, challenge, and effort. Writing the proposal, having the difficult conversation, learning the new skill, starting the project you've postponed. These activities matter because they create growth. One of the most famous examples of prioritization comes from an idea often associated with investor Warren Buffett. The exercise is remarkably simple. Imagine listing your 25 most important goals, then identify the 5 that matter most. Most people assume the remaining 20 goals should become secondary priorities, but Buffett's insight is different. The remaining 20 goals become distractions, not because they are bad goals, but because they can pull your attention away from the few priorities that matter most. This concept challenges the way many people think. We often assume success comes from pursuing more opportunities. In reality, success frequently comes from protecting ourselves from distractions disguised as opportunities. Every commitment carries a cost. Every yes consumes time, energy, and attention. This is why learning to say no is one of the most important productivity skills you can develop. For many people, saying no feels uncomfortable. We worry about disappointing others. We fear missing out. We want to appear helpful, cooperative, and available. But every time you say yes to something unimportant, you say no to something important. You say no to your goals. You say no to your priorities. You say no to the future you're trying to build. Highly productive people understand that saying no is not selfish, it is strategic. They recognize that protecting their priorities allows them to contribute more effectively where it matters most. This does not mean becoming rigid or unavailable. It means becoming intentional. Instead of automatically accepting every request, they evaluate whether the opportunity aligns with their values and objectives. They understand that focus requires boundaries. The ability to prioritize also reduces stress. When everything feels equally important, the mind becomes overwhelmed. Decisions become harder. Anxiety increases. Productivity suffers. But when you clearly identify your highest priorities, uncertainty decreases. You know where to direct your energy. You know what deserves your attention. You know what can wait. This clarity creates confidence. Imagine ending each day knowing that you focused on the tasks that truly mattered. Even if some items remain unfinished, you feel accomplished because your best energy was invested in meaningful work. That feeling is far more satisfying than crossing dozens of low-value tasks off a list. Ultimately, productivity is not a game of quantity, it is a game of significance. Your life will not be defined by the number of tasks you completed. It will be defined by the impact of the tasks you chose to prioritize. Years from now, you will not remember every email you answered or every minor responsibility you managed. What you will remember are the meaningful projects you completed, the goals you achieved, the relationships you nurtured, and the contributions you made. Those outcomes come from focusing on what matters most. The secret to achieving more is often surprisingly simple: do less. But make sure the things you do are the things that matter most. Because when your priorities are clear, your efforts become powerful, and when your efforts become powerful, extraordinary results begin to follow. Chapter 9. Consistency, Discipline, and Long-Term Success. There is a moment that arrives in every meaningful journey when excitement fades. The goal is still there, the dream still matters, the vision remains alive in your heart, but the emotional energy that once fueled you has begun to disappear. The enthusiasm that made everything feel exciting is no longer as strong. Progress feels slower. Results seem distant. The work has become repetitive. This is the moment that separates wishful thinking from real achievement. Most people love the beginning of a journey. Beginnings are exciting. They are filled with possibility, optimism, and hope. Starting a new habit feels empowering. Setting ambitious goals creates motivation. Planning a better future fills us with energy. But success is rarely decided at the beginning. Success is decided in the middle. It is decided during the ordinary days when nobody is watching. It is decided when progress feels slow. It is decided when motivation disappears, and all that remains is a choice: continue or quit. This is where discipline becomes one of the most powerful forces in the world. Many people spend years searching for motivation. They read books, watch videos, listen to speeches, and wait for inspiration to strike. There is nothing wrong with motivation. It can be powerful. It can help you start. But motivation is unreliable. Some mornings you wake up energized and ready to conquer the world. Other mornings you feel tired, distracted, stressed or discouraged. If your actions depend entirely on your emotions, your progress will always rise and fall with your mood. Discipline is different. Discipline allows you to continue when motivation leaves. It is the quiet decision to honor your commitments regardless of how you feel in the moment. The disciplined person exercises even when they don't feel like exercising. They work on important projects even when inspiration is absent. They continue learning, improving, and showing up long after the initial excitement has faded. This does not mean disciplined people enjoy every moment of the process. It means they understand something important. Feelings are temporary, but results are cumulative. Every action you take today becomes part of the future you are creating. The challenge is that consistency often feels unrewarding in the short term. Human beings naturally crave immediate results. We want to see progress quickly. We want evidence that our efforts are working. We want confirmation that the sacrifices we are making are worth it. Unfortunately, many of life's greatest rewards operate on delayed gratification. You may exercise for weeks before noticing visible physical changes. You may study for months before seeing dramatic improvements in your skills. You may work on a business for years before experiencing significant success. During these periods, consistency becomes difficult because the rewards remain largely invisible. This is why so many people quit too early. They mistake a lack of immediate results for a lack of progress, but progress is often happening beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. Think about a bamboo tree. For years after planting, very little growth appears above the ground. During that time, the tree is developing an extensive root system beneath the surface. Then, seemingly overnight, rapid growth occurs. To an observer, the growth appears sudden. In reality, it was the result of years of invisible preparation. Human growth often works the same way. The effort you invest today may not produce immediate rewards, but every productive action strengthens your skills, your confidence, your habits, and your character. Eventually, those investments begin to compound. This principle can be seen in the lives of many extraordinary performers. Consider athletes like Michael Jordan. People often focus on the championships, the awards, and the moments of greatness. What they rarely see are the countless hours of practice, repetition, and preparation that made those moments possible. Talent played a role, certainly, but discipline transformed potential into achievement. Michael Jordan became legendary not because he occasionally worked hard. He became legendary because he consistently worked hard. The same principle applies to every area of life. Long-term success rarely belongs to the most talented person. More often, it belongs to the person who remains committed long enough to allow their efforts to compound. Of course, every journey includes setbacks. No matter how disciplined you become, there will be days when you make mistakes, you will miss workouts, you will procrastinate, you will lose focus. You will experience failures, disappointments, and unexpected challenges. These moments are inevitable. The difference between successful people and everyone else is not perfection, it is recovery. Many people allow a single mistake to become a permanent setback. They miss one day and convince themselves they have failed. They experience one disappointment and abandon their goal entirely. Productive people take a different approach. They understand that setbacks are part of the process. Instead of dwelling on mistakes, they focus on returning to action as quickly as possible. They do not waste energy on guilt. They invest energy in recovery. This mindset creates resilience. Resilience is the ability to continue moving forward despite difficulties. It is the willingness to adapt, learn, and persist when circumstances become challenging. And resilience is essential because life rarely unfolds exactly as planned. Unexpected obstacles will appear. There will be periods of uncertainty, stress, and frustration. There will be moments when progress feels impossible to measure. In those moments, your systems become more important than your emotions. This is why building a sustainable productivity system matters so much. A system removes the burden of constant decision-making. It provides structure during difficult times. It helps you maintain momentum even when motivation is absent. Your system might include morning routines, weekly planning sessions, scheduled work blocks, healthy habits, and clear priorities. The details matter less than the consistency. The goal is to create an environment where productive behavior becomes the default choice rather than a daily struggle. Over time, these systems produce remarkable results, not because they are dramatic, but because they are repeatable. The truth is that extraordinary success is rarely the result of one extraordinary action. It is usually the result of ordinary actions performed consistently over long periods of time. A productive life is not built in a single day. It is built one day at a time, one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one disciplined action at a time. As you continue your journey, remember this: you do not need to be perfect. You do not need to have unlimited motivation. You do not need to move at an extraordinary pace. You simply need to keep moving, because consistency creates momentum. Momentum creates growth. Growth creates confidence, and confidence creates the belief that even greater achievements are possible. In the end, long-term success belongs not to those who start the strongest, but to those who stay committed the longest. And that commitment begins with the simple decision to show up again tomorrow. Chapter 10. Becoming Unstoppable, Designing a Life of Achievement. Imagine meeting the future version of yourself 10 years from now, not the version shaped by luck or chance, but the version created by your daily choices, the version that stayed committed when things became difficult, the version that followed through on promises, developed meaningful habits, and consistently invested time in what mattered most. What would that person look like? How would they think? What would they have accomplished? More importantly, who would they have become? For most people, achievement is often viewed as a destination. They imagine that success exists somewhere in the future, waiting to be reached. They believe that one day they will finally arrive at a point where everything feels complete, but life rarely works that way. Success is not a destination, it is a direction. The most fulfilled and productive people are not those who eventually stop growing. They are those who embrace growth as a lifelong journey. They understand that achievement is not something you accomplish once. It is something you continuously create through the way you live. This realization changes everything. When you stop chasing success as a final destination and begin viewing it as a process, the pressure begins to disappear. Every day becomes an opportunity to improve. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to learn. Every setback becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. This mindset is the foundation of becoming unstoppable. Throughout this audiobook, we've explored many different aspects of productivity. We've discussed goals, focus, time management, habits, energy, prioritization, discipline, and consistency. Each of these elements is powerful on its own, but true transformation happens when they begin working together. A productive life is not built through isolated actions. It is built through systems. Think of a system as a collection of behaviors, routines, and principles that guide your daily decisions. Your system determines how you spend your mornings, how you manage distractions, how you approach challenges, and how you recover from setbacks. Goals give you direction. Systems help you make progress. Many people become obsessed with setting goals, but spend very little time designing systems. As a result, they constantly rely on motivation to carry them forward. The problem is that motivation comes and goes. Systems remain. A productive system acts like a bridge between your intentions and your results. It reduces uncertainty, it removes unnecessary decisions, it creates consistency even during difficult periods. Imagine two individuals with the same goal of improving their health. One relies entirely on motivation. The other creates a system that includes regular exercise, healthy meal planning, consistent sleep habits, and accountability. Months later, which person is more likely to succeed? The answer is obvious. The system wins. This principle applies to every meaningful pursuit in life. If you want to become more productive, do not focus only on what you want to achieve. Focus on creating a daily structure that naturally supports those achievements. The beauty of systems is that they transform success from an occasional event into a repeatable process. However, becoming unstoppable requires more than productivity alone. It requires self-mastery. Self-mastery is the ability to lead yourself effectively regardless of circumstances. It means maintaining your values when challenges arise. It means controlling your attention in a world filled with distractions. It means acting according to your long-term goals rather than your temporary emotions. This is not easy. Human beings naturally seek comfort. We avoid uncertainty. We resist discomfort. We look for shortcuts and easier paths. Yet growth often exists on the other side of discomfort. Every meaningful achievement requires stepping beyond familiar boundaries. Learning a new skill feels uncomfortable. Taking responsibility feels uncomfortable. Facing failure feels uncomfortable. Having difficult conversations feels uncomfortable. But every time you move through discomfort instead of avoiding it, you expand your capabilities. You become stronger. You become more resilient. You become more capable of handling larger challenges. This process never truly ends. The most successful individuals in the world continue learning, improving, and evolving long after they have achieved extraordinary accomplishments. They remain curious. They remain humble. They understand that growth is a lifelong responsibility. Continuous improvement is one of the defining characteristics of productive people. They do not compare themselves endlessly to others. They compare themselves to who they were yesterday. They focus on progress rather than perfection. This mindset creates freedom. Perfection is impossible. Progress is always available. Even a small improvement today has value. Even a single productive action moves you forward. Even a minor lesson learned from failure contributes to future success. When you begin viewing life through this lens, setbacks lose much of their power. Failures become teachers. Mistakes become feedback. Challenges become opportunities for development. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What can this teach me?" That simple shift changes how you experience adversity. It transforms obstacles into stepping stones. It turns problems into possibilities. Another important aspect of designing a life of achievement is understanding that productivity should enhance your life, not consume it. Many people pursue success so aggressively that they sacrifice their health, relationships, and happiness along the way. They become efficient at accomplishing tasks, but disconnected from what truly matters. This is not sustainable success. True achievement includes balance. Your productivity should create more opportunities to enjoy life, not fewer. It should strengthen your relationships rather than weaken them. It should improve your well-being rather than destroy it. It should help you build a meaningful life, not merely a busy one. At the end of your life, you will not measure success solely by accomplishments. You will measure it by experiences, relationships, growth, contribution, and fulfillment. The most productive people understand this. They do not pursue achievement at the expense of life. They use achievement to enrich life. As we reach the final chapter of this journey, remember that becoming unstoppable is not about becoming perfect. It is not about working every hour of every day. It is not about eliminating every weakness or mistake. Becoming unstoppable means developing the ability to continue moving forward regardless of circumstances. It means staying committed when motivation fades. It means learning when others quit. It means adapting when challenges arise. It means trusting the process even when results are not immediately visible. Most importantly, it means understanding that the power to change your life has been within you all along. Every productive choice you make matters. Every habit you build matters. Every hour you invest wisely matters. Every step forward matters. The future you desire is not created in one dramatic moment. It is created through the small decisions you make every day. And if you continue making those decisions with purpose, discipline, and intention, there is no limit to what you can achieve. That is what it truly means to become unstoppable. And we come to the end of this audiobook. It's important to remember one simple truth. Productivity is not about becoming a machine. It is not about filling every minute of your day with work, chasing perfection, or constantly pushing yourself to exhaustion. Productivity is about living intentionally. It is about making conscious choices instead of letting distractions make them for you. It is about directing your time, energy, and attention toward the things that truly matter. It is about creating a life where your actions reflect your values and your daily habits support your biggest dreams. Throughout this journey, you've learned that productivity begins with the right mindset. It grows through clear goals, focused attention, effective time management, strong habits, disciplined action, and consistent effort. You've seen that success is not built through occasional bursts of motivation, but through small decisions repeated day after day. The most powerful lesson of all is that meaningful change does not happen overnight. Your future will not be shaped by one extraordinary day. It will be shaped by what you choose to do tomorrow morning. It will be shaped by the habits you build, the distractions you eliminate, the priorities you protect, and the promises you keep to yourself. You do not need to transform your entire life today. You only need to take the next step. Choose one habit, focus on one goal, complete one important task, make one decision that moves you closer to the person you want to become. Then do it again tomorrow. Remember, productivity is not your destination, it is your superpower. It is the ability to turn dreams into action, action into progress, and progress into a life filled with achievement and fulfillment. Your best future is not waiting for the perfect moment. It is waiting for your next decision, and that journey begins now.